Pro-Palestine teachers are pumping their warped views into your children's brains, and it's just got even worse. Kids have had their brains warped with trans nonsense, critical race theory, the demonising of the British Empire. They've been used to advertise Wales to illegal migrants, but now a maths teacher standing for election to the National Education Union's governing body declared that she has introduced solidarity actions in West London schools in support of Palestine. He declined to say exactly what those actions are. Teachers have reposted hard left articles on social media justifying Hamas's October 7 terror attacks, saying, quotes, "The Palestinian people have every right to respond in any way they choose to the violence that the Israeli state metes out to them every day." A religious education teacher in southwest London has just been revealed to have called the Hamas atrocity a, quote, justified act of resistance, and wrote that Hamas had, quote, committed no crime. So this is all according to a bombshell investigation that's been released today by the Daily Mail. Nazia Abbasi, a primary school teacher, posted an anti-Semitic mural of Jewish bankers playing Monopoly on the backs of the poor, and also share conspiracy theories about Mossad being responsible for 9/11. Here's a picture, allegedly, of Sajia Iqbal, the NEU's former president, in Redbridge, and a teacher, supposedly, at Beale High School, clearing the shelves of a Sainsbury's store of Israeli food as part of the Palestinian Solidarity campaign's Don't Buy Apartheid campaign. In Norwich, Andrea Abiensing, when she's not teaching science, by the way, at Northgate High School, she's actually chairing Norfolk's branch of the far-left Palestine Solidarity campaign. In January, she organised a protest against 3 Israeli competitors taking part in the World Indoor Bowls Championship. So she's tell you what, if Netanyahu doesn't listen to that, then there's no hope, is there? But anyway, that was being held in Great Yarmouth. So again, massive impact there on the Gaza Strip. She says that she does not push her political views on her students, as that is not part of her role as a teacher. These people are teaching your kids, and they're just some of the people that we know about. But the rock goes right to the top. The head of the NEU is a chap called Daniel Kebede. So he's only in this position of power because he managed to secure 28,000 votes on a 9% turnout. Yeah, so there are viruses with a higher popularity rating than this guy, all right? He's said that the education system is institutionally racist, he's a Marxist by the looks of things, and he wants to globalise the Intifada.
Let's do it for Palestine, Ramallah, West Bank, Gaza. It's about time we globalise the Intifada!
Or you could teach people maths and English. Oh, I don't know, maybe. And you know how I said that it's just got a bit worse? Yeah? Here's how. So a Jeremy Corbyn ally with absolutely no teaching experience whatsoever. No teaching experience. He's called Matt Rack, and he's somehow just been elected leader of the other main teaching union, the NAS-UWT. So it's been reported that he was apparently once a member of the Trotskyist Socialist Party. He's accused of not taking anti-Semitism seriously during the Corbyn years, and he might look to merge those two teaching unions, which would create one unified cabal of radical trots. Is it a coincidence that Labour wants to make it harder to send your kid to a private school? Do you think that maybe they just want every child to be under the thumb of the hard left from a young age? It's no wonder, is it, that homeschooling is on the rise. So, GBNews approached Nazia Abbasi, Matt Milovanovic, Andrea Abiyasingi and Sajia Iqbal for comment. None of them responded. I don't know, maybe they were busy interrupting a bowls tournament in Great Yarmouth again. But a spokesperson for the National Education Union, again, which is run by Daniel Kebede, our mate there, said the NEU condemns anti-Semitism and has a proud history of combating all forms of racism. As a union of 500,000 members, our members will hold many different political and personal opinions, as is to be expected in a democracy. Taking part in activities or political meetings in their own time is therefore inevitable and well within their rights. The important issue is that when in the classroom, the teacher's professional code of conduct is upheld, and teachers are impartial when speaking to students formally or informally. Well, we'll have to see about that, won't we? Let's get the thoughts of my wonderful panel this evening. Director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. So, Mark, how big a problem do you think this is?
It's pretty serious, isn't it? I mean, there are a range of different stories that you've covered there. I have some moderate sympathy with the NEU statement. I mean, I think teachers are allowed to be politically active outside of the classrooms. You know, they're not civil servants. They can run for Parliament. They can have their own views. I remember back to when I was studying A-levels, I think by about that time teachers would profess, look, I'm coming at this from a left-wing angle or a conservative angle, but they would always give me the other side of the case as well. My politics teacher was very conservative, my economics teacher was very left-wing, but they'd say, well, that would be my approach, but others might say this. I'm not at all confident that any of these people are ensuring that their students know the pro-Israel story at all. And if you are not impartial in the classroom, you need to be struck off. Simple as that.
So you would strike these people off if there's any evidence whatsoever of them being...
breaching impartiality. If you're egregiously breaching impartiality, you need to be struck off, yeah.
What do you make of this? I mean, the other side of it, so you've got those quite militant activists who, one of them is a primary school teacher, you know, I mean, saying some really, really spicy stuff there about, you know, Mossad being responsible for 9/11 and all of this stuff. So teaching very young kids, whether or not she says that in the classroom, we don't know, but we're not there in the classroom, are we? The other aspect of it is these union leaders, zero teaching experience, just hard left radical trot.
Look, we know from past experience that these unions are made up of ex-communists, you know, Marxists and far left. Last year, I went on an anti-fascism march, not for me, but to interview some of the people there and get their side of the story. There was teachers' unions there amongst Antifa, who for me is a low-level terrorist group, in my opinion. And then next to communist flags, you know, an ideology that is responsible for 100 million deaths. So I think we've got a big problem with the far left and some of this mob in our classrooms.
Yeah, and Nina, I would say that by making it harder and harder and harder to send children to private schools, and by also introducing a load of other things like some of these breakfast clubs, which, by the way, are not free because we are all paying for them, right? Then you are keeping children in the state sector and keeping them in there for longer, and that means that they are more likely to be at the mercy of the radical hard left.
That's a pretty extreme equation, for heaven's sake, Patrick. You know, you've gone like that with just one fact. First of all, I completely agree. Children should not be indoctrinated. My mother was a Scottish school teacher, a lifelong Scottish school teacher, and you know, you just do not talk politics. Well, hopefully you don't talk religion. But then we have faith schools, which I don't actually believe in. I think all schools should be secular. Having said that, you have no proof that these people are indoctrinating their pupils. There's absolutely no proof at all that there's been anything untoward that's gone on in a classroom. We have no proof at all. There's no hard facts. Added to which, ask yourself, what is being said in Jewish schools? What indoctrination, perhaps, is going on in Jewish schools? That's equally abhorrent, surely. We don't know that, do we?
You could say that about any faith school, I suppose, in a sense. But
we're talking about a Jewish school because we're talking about anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I suppose it's how much confidence you would have that bloke that we saw there wearing one of those Palestinian scarves, who is openly saying that he's got solidarity campaigns for pupils in his school, who is clearly, you know, massively to the left there, whether he just turns that off when he walks through the school gates.
Well, that's the concern, isn't it? So Nina has a point that, you know, we haven't got footage of what's being said in the classroom. But if I was the head of a school and one of my teachers was posting on Twitter that Mossad were responsible for 9/11 and the Hamas attacks on innocent Israelis were fine and dandy, I'd have some pretty big questions.
No crimes committed.
I would have some serious questions. I would say, you are putting forward, you know, not just some opinions here. I mean, some very, very extreme opinions. I would liken that to somebody putting forward, you know, white supremacist views on Twitter. I would put them on a very, very tight leash for what they were teaching in the classroom. This isn't like just being pro-Israel or something. I mean, this is way off the extreme.
If someone did post something like a teacher was out there going, stop the boats, turn the boats around. We should shut down every migrant hotel and deport everyone.
No.
Right, there's no way. The NEU would be all over that like a rash.
Of course they would, because it is a left-wing group. At the end of the day, though, what chance have we got when our so-called state broadcaster, it is the BBC, let's be honest, has had to apologise something like 20 times for misreporting or putting out misinformation about the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians.
Well, the problem with reporting on the situation in Gaza is that Israel will not allow journalists into British.
The data comes from Hamas.
But that's a point worth making. Is that because of that, it's much more difficult to get to the heart of the matter because they cannot be on the ground. They're not allowed.
The audience also needs to remember that the BBC would not class Hamas as terrorists. I think they called them freedom fighters.
The key thing here, though, Adam, is you can
like
switch off the BBC and switch to GBNews, which you should do.
Exactly.
If you're a kid in a classroom, you can't reach for the remote control and switch off your teacher.
It's also not just about the pro-Palestine stuff. So this is the expose today that, we've got confirmation now that several teachers in their spare time are going out and doing some pretty radical stuff in relation to Palestine. But you look at the guy, the Daniel Kabidi there, wants to, quote, decolonise the curriculum. It's pretty... I would argue there's a case to be made for the idea that this guy's pretty anti-British, OK? If he's the head of the largest teaching...
Why would you say decolonise? Why would you say that's anti-British?
He wants to globalise the Intifada, which is not great, right? So there's that. But if he's in charge of it, what else are kids being taught?
But the thing is, he has no control over the curriculum. He has no control over what a teacher... Yes, he has no...
look up to teachers and adults.
And some teachers are better than others.
If you know that your teacher is doing this in their spare time, you're more inclined to be sort of affected by that or follow that.
How is a primary school child supposed to know that?
One thing I will say is that kids do follow current trends, current things. We see it with the BLM Marxist movement. Loads of students and kids were sort of pushed that way because they see adults in schools following that. And then you had like the trans ideology. Yep. It's the current thing. At the moment, just to say anything pro-Palestine is trendy. Let's not be let's just stop for a moment. Let's just get real. What is going on in Palestine at the moment is an absolute humanitarian catastrophe. So was October the 7th,
yes,
I've called both of
absolutely,
the
I'm not decrying that. October the 7th was an absolutely obscene act of terrorism. However, but listen, what is going on in Palestine is a human...
But you don't look at Daniel Kabadi, do you?
No, hang on a minute. If you were
very confident my kids are
Palestinian,
education.
If you were Palestinian, you would look...
We're going to have to move on, I'm afraid. Yeah. OK, all right.